My name is Wolf, and today we are back with our life beginning and always with Derek's epilogue. Uh, a slice of chocolate cake. You had Derek come up behind you. You didn't have to look to guess that he was trying to figure out what caught your eye. Quickly pointed out the prize was up.
Nice.
Looks good. Xavier, I like the chocolate cake. Absolutely. And that's everything? Two packed and prepped boxes were sitting side by side as Xavier reached behind them for a thought. Yep. Nicholas and Harry gave a thumbs up to confirm that they were all taken care of. The answer caused confusion from Xavier. So you're not getting what Derek? So you're not getting what Derek is getting, Nico. That's kind of teasing from someone else than those Suarez caught you entirely by surprise. But Nicholas was able to click back with ease. Maybe I would've, but Derek isn't getting anything. He was out on a sale if I copied that. A good point. You don't need to do that. Hey, why don't you be the one to pick up something for him instead?
Sorry.
Nothing. That's not how this works. As well the shop. The two chuckled good-naturedly. Let me ring you up. Those are the magic words to draw Derek fully over to the front. He came to the spa across from the register. It didn't go unnoticed.
Derek?
Derek, you're the only one who didn't scan anything. You shouldn't pay. Nico snapped his head around the true look of offense, or it gone on behind his back. He folded his arms disapprovingly, catching Derek with his hand in the metaphorical cookie jar. Or rather, throwing his own cookies in someone else's jar.
What?
What? Derek made a fox surprise at Xavier's response to Nicholas's Dominic decision, giving a run for his money with his scoff of played up disbelief. You can't take away my oldest child privileges of being my little brothers. And Kelly's my partner. Why wouldn't I pick up the tab for them? The middle and youngest, so Suarez, shared concerned glances with one another. Their brows knit and their frowns salty. However, their brotherly non-verbal communication gradually softened their expressions. Their eyes carried the message they needed, and soon they were shrugging in acceptance. Derek gave a winning grin and pulled out his waiting wallet. He was forever their big brother, after all. Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Derek.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. The treats were paid for, and Xavier carefully passed over the crisp white boxes to their rightful owners. The Zake logo was printed in, of course. Pink ink flapped. The Zake logo was printed in, of course. Pink ink across the top flaps. They also handed over a cup of water for Nicolas.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for your patronage. Have a wonderful day. Derek, Harry, and Nicholas gave each other cheery goodbyes and began to walk out as a group. He gave a wave and turned to leave with them. Thank you. Thank you too. Bye. The group's first stop of the day was complete in a sweetly satisfying way. Everyone got back in the car, same as before. No one had even put on their seatbelts before Harry asked a very reasonable question.
Now what?
What are we doing now? Derek checked the back seat mirror through the mirror. Yeah, what now, Nico? Nicholas crossed his arms behind his head, thoughtfully staring out the window. All eyes on today's decision maker, he considered long and hard in the hot car about how to use his power. In the end, he went for his old default. The teen leaned all the way over and popped his head through the gap between the two front seats. He leaned back and forth between you and Derek with one fuzzy brow arched. What did people do when you were teens?
Oh,
What?
man.
You're making us sound ancient. We're 23. Nico wants to do what Derek did? What a surprise. Nicholas rolled his eyes. That was the second time in about 10 minutes he was getting teased for that. He couldn't help it, but he pressed again. I mean it. What was the place to be when you went babysitting me and Clary? Derek tapped the finger against the steering wheel. I remember the mall being super cool when I was still in school, but that started to die out, huh?
What?
The mall? Really? Sparkles began to twinkle in Nicholas's eyes like a cloud sky. Yeah. The word was with a nostalgic whisper. His gaze drifted off to somewhere in the distance. Hey Kelly, remember when Miss Priest brought you, me, Cove, and Lee to the mall and just took off so we were on our own? I thought it was such a bad idea, but it was a ton of fun. Definitely. He was cool. Totally. Clary shrugged the single shoulder, buckling himself in for the ride. I've only gone there with Mom to get new clothes. I don't remember being any better than any other store. But if that's what Nico wants to do, I don't mind.
Let's go.
Let's go! Nicholas launched himself backwards and bounced in his seat. He stayed still just long enough to lock his seatbelt in
Let's
place.
get to it.
The mall it is. Two more clicks followed as you and Derek put on your seatbelts. Derek pulled out as you were on the road once more. The day was spent with Derek trying and failing to remember all the stores that used to be in the county mall. This was several off, but had no idea how many were still open in the year of 2021, or if they were real store names, or if he was just mixing up the words. His little brothers reveled in the laugh-inducing boundary of explanation of the magical mall of his youth. They took on bets of how many shops they would actually see when they got there. Harry guessed about only 3 of them would be there, if they were ever existed. Nicholas declared that every single one would be there, even the ones that definitely sounded made up. Derek, reasonable as always, went down the middle with his own recollection, and guessed that you would be able to find about half of them there. You agreed with Derek. Derek assured you that you had made a wise decision. You felt good about your odds. When you rolled into the county mall's expensive parking lot, Derek was able to get a parking spot without any trouble. There were rows and rows of cracked and oil-stained slots, with only a single car or two already there. Just as Derek thought, the location lost most of its popularity as the years went on. It was at least convenient for your need. It was probably the only place in the city that wasn't. It was probably the only place in the city where parking wasn't jam-packed. The 4 of you filed out of the car, crossed the lot, and passed through the towering front doors. Oh man, the places have definitely changed. The interior of the place had a slight uncanny feeling. The massive structure was unchanged from when you were a teenager, but everything felt smaller, less grand than before. There were stores that you were almost certain you'd never seen there, and yet there was so little to differentiate their apples and appearances from the stores of the past, made you question your memory. Well, here we are. Take it in.
Wow.
Wow. He wandered up and down the wide, mostly empty halls, pointing out the ones Derek had named, or almost named along the way. It was again by spy. The younger brothers were quite entertained by that. They let the pack to get the fast look of whatever was ahead. Derek and you lingered behind. He gave appropriate reactions whenever one of the boys shouted out a store name that matched Derek's recollection, or one that he failed to know. The two laughed and waved back at you while you cheered and booed up at them. When you neared the end of the aisle, there was a break in the store names that could be announced. Derek used that as a moment to whisper a joking remark. Feels like we're babysitting again, huh? It does. But if they get, but they'll get grumpy if they hear us say so. He winked and picked up the pace. Nico and Harry had drifted further away from his watchful eyes, and a responsible babysitter couldn't let that happen. The group arrived at the crossroad of the mall, where the three separate halls of the stores converged in the middle. A tiny playground of coin rides, flanked by a handful of candy dispensers, remained in the centerpiece. The little cars and helicopters were far more worn down, but still intact. Derek snorted the revelation.
Man,
I'm definitely too old for that now. I might seriously break something if I tried to fit. Without the boisterous of Nicholas and Harry to fill the space, sounds of footsteps echoed so much louder. Derek's expression twisted and drew very sweetly at the space. Ink can now. It's not the same. Then his focus came onto his brothers and his then his focus came onto his brothers and his face snapped back to its usual optimism. So, do you guys actually want to go in any of these stores? His little brothers both turned to stare wide-eyed at their elder. Nicholas and Harry were generally taken aback at the idea of behaving as regular customers. They were visiting the sightseers of an archaeological site from times long gone. Nico blinked rapidly to hydrate his eyeballs after keeping them open for so long. Then, his expression slipped into an easy grin. He put his hands on his hips. Yeah, I'll try it. He scanned the rows and rows of stores with new, fresh eyes. A target was quickly acquired. Nicholas pointed an outstretched hand at the Blackwood skater shop. Oh, look at that one. Harry came to face an entirely different direction. He mulled over the suggestion silently, and was gazing with consideration at the bookstore with the huge glass windows that showed off not only the books on sale but other wares like board games and figurines. The unspoken differences of opinion didn't escape Derek's attention. He spoke with full authority, truly dusting off those old babysitter instincts. Hey, this doesn't mean I want you guys to go off on your own. You're not little kids, but we're here to be together. There's time to see more than one place. We'll take turns. Okay. Automatically and obedient, Clary and Nicholas replied in unison. They were good kids. Is there someplace you or Callie want to go to? Jared didn't hesitate. He jerked a thumb over his shoulder at the video game shop. That's what I want to check out. Callie? All three Cyrus brothers blushed questioningly, each wondering the same thing. It was hard to say without knowing for sure what the options even were. But luckily, the center had a handy 8-foot tall map that was emblazoned with easy-to-follow categories and lists of store names. It was a vertical cheat sheet for that little game, and you were glad the younger brothers found the store they wanted without needing to peek at it. There was nothing wrong with you having some extra insight though, and you read over everything laid out. A significant amount of stores sold food. You just left the bakery and should be eating with the rest of the family pretty soon. You decided against all of those. You realized something was missing. There had been a music store before, and now the spot was being filled by a perfume candle store. Beyond that, there were tons of chain stores with very standard type of products. How about the art supply shop? That'd be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, let's see what they got. Derek nodded his head, only but patted it with a cheeky grin. With a cheery grin.
Come on.
We've got a plan. So I can't go to like all the different stores I want to go to, but it's fine. Okay. We'll go in order. So your group crowded into Nicholas's store of choice, and aggressive rock music played within the graffiti covered walls. It was small and crammed, making it impossible for people to navigate between the displays together. Derek and Clary were filtered through the narrow spaces on one side of the shop, and you and Nicholas were on the other. The claustrophobic atmosphere didn't faze Nico. He lackadaisically surveyed the scene, only stopping when he came across the shelf of slip-on shoes. Nicholas lifted a checkered shoe off the rack, weighed it in his hands. By the intrigue of his brows, he got the impression you had been that spot for a while. So, how did school go last year? He asked casually. I'm surviving. That's good to know. Nico's usual energy faded from him. The shoe became a lead weight in his hand. It hung low at his side, and he stared blankly at the wall. For a sigh, he mustered enough motivation to limply place the shoe back on the rack. Is everything alright? Listlessness killed on the defensiveness at your concern. Nicholas crossed his bare arms tightly against his chest. He wouldn't look at you. That was a hint to realize this wasn't about the shoes. It was time to acknowledge the elephant in the room. Though it was time to acknowledge the elephant that could in no way fit in the room. Nicola, you're upset about me dating Derek, aren't you? From what you could see of his half-tanned face, his expression would be hard to read, even if it wasn't hiding it. The expression was conflicted, not quite anger, not quite sadness, not quite fear, and under all of it was a layer of guilt. You gave him space, knowing you'd already prodded enough. When he spoke, it was slow and sure. He was processing what he was thinking as he vocalized it. I didn't want you to break my brother's heart, since he obviously likes you. And I don't wish that Derek had never met anyone whom you like. Not like you do. I thought we were friends. Like, you were friends with him. Nicholas worked himself up more and more by confronting this part of his feelings, but his turmoil quickly fizzled
I
out.
don't know.
But I don't know. Now that you're really together, you're probably gonna stay together, and I don't know. He dripped like a match that a bucket of water dumped over it. I've never had a real girlfriend, and Derek could be going off to make his own family, and who knows how soon. I want to be part of your group, not take Derek from it. This time your words softened his this time your words softened his demeanor instead of sharpening it. He wasn't all better. It was still a concern, but you could see hope and trust in his gaze. Even though today wasn't even though it wasn't today, you felt confident that someday he would be truly happy about the shift in relationship dynamics that had occurred. Nicholas gestured with his hand to continue for you Nicholas gestured with his hand for you to come as he turned away more. He walked back to the center of the tiny space. From there, it was easy for the brothers to spot him. Derek and Corey waded through the merchandise pressed in from all sides, almost knocking a few things over on the way. It was rough for a couple of large adult men, but they didn't have to worry about that for long. I'm done with this, he announced with a shrug. You go ahead and go on then. He only wanted to satisfy his curiosity. We can go to someplace else now.